everybody? I am Danny Otto. Welcome into another episode of That Recap Show. Now, before we get into the episode, just want to issue major best car level spoiler alert. We are going to be going over everything that happened in episode 5 of the Book of Boba Fett. So if you haven't seen that yet, you may want to pause this video, head over to Disney Plus, check that out, and then come back and enjoy the breakdown. Now, with that out of the way, let's start the show.
Poppin' Off presents That Recap Show.
Everything that happened in episode 5 of the Book of Boba Fett. It's Jon Rico. Oh. Now, here's the question. Did you win that in combat?
I sure did, Danny.
Combat with your wallet? Is that what happened?
No. Actual combat. Come on. How dare you?
So look, I am so excited. So before we even get into anything, initial reactions. I got everything I wanted. So here's the one thing that I thought of instantly, because there's been people predicting when we were going to see Mando from episode 1, basically. Mm-hmm. So I wonder, I immediately thought of that scene from Big Daddy where the little kid wants to have the kangaroo song. He keeps going, kangaroo song, kangaroo song, kangaroo song.
All right!
And it's literally the first scene is Mando. And I was like, we got everything we wanted. He's right there. And then instantly I was like, where's the Darksaber? And then boom, within the next minute, it was like, here it is. Here's everything you wanted. And I was just like, after I finished the episode, I was like,
no notes.
No notes.
No notes.
No notes?
No notes.
No notes.
No notes.
No notes.
No notes. It's perfect.
I got everything I wanted. I loved the episode. Absolutely. And I understand it was completely a break from anything having to do with the storyline of the Book of Boba Fett. I understand that. We'll just rename it. It's basically the Book of Mando for this episode. And I was all about it. That's all. I don't want to get into anything else from our takeaways yet, but Rico, what were some of your initial reactions to this episode?
Yeah, I loved this episode. I pretty much got what I wanted to from basically a Mandalorian season 2.5 episode, basically. This show was always labeled as Mandalorian season 2.5, but this episode really was that in a nutshell. But the one thing I continue to love about this show is how they are bringing in references to other media in Star Wars, constantly. Instead of just going back to the original trilogy, we're getting little nods to the prequels and then some video games now with the BD unit from Jedi Fallen Order, which I thought was really cool to see in this episode. They give us stuff from the comics and stuff like that. And then from the books with Cobb Vanth. They continue to give us these really deep cut references and bring them into the mainstream atmosphere with the shows and the movies. So they're making it more fulfilling for people who do read that stuff. And the more I would say the more hardcore Star Wars fan base who are they gotta absorb every little bit of Star Wars content that comes their way. But for the new more casual fans, they get to learn about all these newer characters and just adds more depth to the lore of Star Wars, which is makes these shows so much fun to watch.
I absolutely agree, because I'll admit you are way more of a Star Wars hardcore fan than I am, and I really enjoy we sit before we even make these videos and just kind of talk about everything in the episodes ahead of time, because a lot of times there are a couple of things that I don't get, and I've tried to consume a majority of the Star Wars stuff. I've played the video games, and and I've watched all of the Star Wars media out there that I could.
Yeah.
I mean, minus I guess the Star Wars Christmas special, which I don't think I'm ever gonna watch. But I haven't. There's stuff that even I don't really know because I haven't
Same.
read the comics and kind of gone down the book lines and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
but you know more than me, so I think it's exciting because just like you said, like there are characters that I haven't really had references to before, but there are also like little tiny things like I'm like, oh, I can't believe that's there. Like there's
Yeah.
Easter eggs for every level of
Everyone.
fandom, and that's what's kind of cool about it is it can bring every level of fandom in, but at the same time give a different Easter egg for each level and make
sure.
people excited for kind of different things, which is really cool because then it opens discussions like this where we really can we can get a better idea of who certain characters are or what certain references mean and stuff like that. And it's exciting. It's opening a lot of discussions and moving forward with stuff. But anyway, you want to get to big takeaways.
Let's do it.
Awesome. Was it just me or the city, I guess, that Mando is on looked to me immediately was a Halo ring. That's immediately what I thought of. I was like, are we crossing genres? Like I knew there was like a live action Halo series about to come out, but I was like,
is Master Chief about to show up? Where
I would, Master Chief would be a Mandalorian. Like he never shows his face.
His own tribe.
It would be awesome. Anyway, so I just had to say that. But there was one thing that really stood out to me that I really liked was we got this really quick snippet of Darksaber training and how like we're getting his explanation that it's getting heavier with every swing and that he's like he hasn't mastered it yet. He doesn't know how to use it, so he's working against it basically. So we're getting this progression of how hard it is for a non-Jedi to really try to wield something. Because I understand that the Darksaber is different than an average lightsaber because it was made so much longer ago. But I think I've always taken for granted how in episode 4 from the original trilogy, A New Hope, Luke Skywalker just immediately picks up a lightsaber and is just like, yeah, I can do this. I think we like that being the introduction to lightsabers, it kind of takes away how difficult it is to really wield something like that for just any given person. You know what I mean? Like we've only really seen lightsabers with Jedi who are like kind of like they have what it takes to kind of wield a weapon like that type of thing. So I think it's really interesting that we kind of had a kind of glimpse into just somebody who's really had no experience with a lightsaber and is just trying his best to try to be able to learn this as a weapon type of thing. I thought that was really interesting for such a small part. I thought it was just a really cool little thing that we got anyway. But what was your first big takeaway?
Yeah, to kind of touch on what you were saying about Din kind of struggling with the Darksaber. Of course, Jedis are more associated with wielding lightsabers, and I think the fact that we're seeing this bounty hunter kind of just come across this Darksaber that he didn't want this as a weapon, like he wanted it in combat, but he didn't set out to find this lightsaber, and he's kind of using it for selfish reasons, like he's using it to kill people for bounties, which is not the Jedi way. That's this is the way for the Mandalorians, but or his people of Mandalorians, but I don't think that was made for that. And I think the Force in some way can kind of sense that. And that's why it's working against him, as the Yummer is kind of saying. So I think there's something to kind of explore there with season 3 of The Mandalorian for sure. But okay. So my takeaway is pretty, okay. My takeaway is pretty long-winded here, so forgive me. But first off, everything with Din on the ring city with the armor and in Paz Vizsla, we're learning the whole history of the Mandalorian culture. Of course, we got to see what happened with the Great Purge, is that kind of like Terminator-esque looking scene of the TIE bombers bombing the entire place, and that was pretty wild to see, especially if you watch the Clone Wars and you've seen a planet like that where it was like already kind of on its last legs a little bit, but it was still kind of thriving in a way. seeing the Empire just kind of like wipe through them was pretty insane. But we also got a little bit of an answer as to why Bo-Katan refused the Darksaber in the Mandalorian season finale, which kind of goes back to, or the armor kind of explains what happened there, that whole thing. How they didn't feel she was worthy and stuff like that. Well, it was given to her in the first place by Sabine. And when the Great Purge happened, they basically said that she was cursed. And like she wasn't deserving of that power, and like that she believed that too, and that's why she didn't want to. She feels she has to win it in combat because that's the Mandalorian way. So I thought that was really cool to kind of get more context into that decision on that character. And again, this is all feeding back into what's going to go into season 3 of Mandalorian, which is going to be all about probably Mandalore and probably uniting these people all together. Because after all that happens, and Din does all the stuff with the Beskar spear and all that, getting all the history in the Darksaber, has Vizsla, who is related to Pre Vizsla and Tar Vizsla, who was the one who created and originally wielded the Darksaber, the original Mandalorian Jedi. He challenges Din for the lightsaber, and he goes like, I want that thing back in my family name, basically. And they have a hell of a fight for a little bit. He even actually gets his hands on the Darksaber and starts to go at Din a little bit. And I kind of get the sense that it was working against him as well. Like I thought he was kind of struggling with it a little bit. Like that sense of heaviness that Din was feeling, I thought I kind of saw it in Paz's character as well. So that was kind of cool. Like it's almost like it's working against both of them because maybe it's not meant for either one of them, which I think is an interesting thing to think about. But Din defeats him with he's got a little like a vibrating knife. I forget what that thing was called, but he's about to take him out. And then, the armor asked the questions that they asked, before they usually give him the ceremonial thing. They asked the thing, have you ever taken your helmet off in front of anyone? Paz says no, of course. But we know that Mandalorian finally did in the season 2 finale when he took it off in front of Grogu and all those people and stuff like that. And he had to be honest with them, like, yeah, I have. Like, yeah. She goes, okay, then you are no longer a Mandalorian. Like to them, to those two people, basically, like he is no longer a Mandalorian. So now we find him to be like a man without a creed, basically. That's what they said, my creed. And that's what brings him to our friend Pelimoto, who returns. And played by Amy Sedaris. And I've grown to love this character more and more that she shows up because she's fun. She knows her place in this role in the universe, and her banter with Dan is just really like fun. Like I think they play off each other really well. And she talks to imaginary droids on set, and she makes it funny. Like come on. So I was really happy to see her return, and she has required a freaking Royal N1 starfighter for Din's new ship, which is pretty cool that he's going from like this big cargo ship basically to like a starfighter ship that goes super fast. So like, and getting to see him like fly through it for the first time and like really start to enjoy it almost gave me like that like Superman first flight kind of feel. Like he goes like, oh yeah, let's see what this thing can do, like and then he starts to really go for it. And then like of course he runs into the two Republic officers that we've seen one of them before in past episodes, so that was a cool callback. And he just takes off on them. He's like, should we go after him? He's like, I don't really want to fill out that paperwork, dude. And I'm like, nah, me neither. Okay. I was pretty long-winded of that, but Danny, do you have anything to say on any of the stuff that I said? Because I'm curious to think what you thought of any of those moments personally.
So much. Like,
yeah.
I mean, I'll just say it. Like, for our final takeaway, we really didn't have one, except that going back to everything that you said for the last big takeaway is just basically like I kind of like began this episode with is this episode was basically the Book of Mando. Like this was like I kept thinking like, oh, when are they gonna go back to Boba and we're gonna like see events happening at the same time? Yeah. But no, we got an entire episode of the Book of Mando basically, and I loved it. Like, but yeah, this one episode gave us so much information and so much lead in to a next season of The Mandalorian. In one episode's runtime, I am so excited for the next season of The Mandalorian, and there's so much open-ended stuff happening in such a little amount of time. Like I love, just like you said, I loved, being able to see Mando getting a new ship, because now it's like when we start the new season of Mandalorian, that's where that came from.
He has his ship now.
Yeah, he didn't steal it from somewhere. He didn't borrow it from someone. We know where he got it. We know that he actually helped build it too and put it back together and all this stuff.
Mhm.
It's just everything from this episode reminded me how much I love the Mandalorian. Like that is what we got in this episode. Not that I've really had anything wrong with the Book of Boba Fett itself. I like we said earlier in this. There are plenty of things I enjoy in the Book of Boba Fett, but there's something about the Mandalorian that, like, in just one episode's worth of runtime, I immediately am back there and I am just fanboying the entire time. So that's kind of just the last big takeaway, is that this gave me everything I wanted and everything that I've kind of not forgotten. It's just been a long time since the end of season 2 of The Mandalorian. So it's not that I had to be reminded, because I will always know, like, I'll recommend that that's a good show, go watch it type of thing. But it's just exciting to see that, and then to instantly be brought back and be like, yup, I need this season now type of thing. Like, it was just a really exciting experience. I wasn't expecting to get an entire episode. I wasn't expecting to get so much. And we were given everything that I wasn't expecting. We were given instantly.
Yeah. I like that this was actually a whole episode dedicated to where Din has been. Because like I said last week, I really wanted to see where Din was after leaving Grogu with Luke, and it turns out that he went back to doing exactly what he was comfortable with, which was just bounty hunting, which is, I think, was, makes sense for his character.
You want to go to predictions?
Oh yeah, Danny, let's do it. So the end of the episode, he talks to Fennec Shan at the end, and that's our big tie-in to Boba Fett, of course, like bringing it all together. She's telling him like, "Hey, we need some muscle," and like, "Oh, Boba needs some muscle." He goes, "I'll help him out free of charge," basically, which I thought was, but I gotta go see a little friend first. And I thought that was really interesting. Like, okay, so I hope that teaser for Grogu was just saved for Mandalorian season 3, and I hope we don't bring this into Book of Boba Fett, because I feel like that becomes an interruption to the actual story they're telling at this point. So I hope that time passes by off screen, and then we'll just see it in season 3 of Mandalorian. And then the next episode, like, he'll just come back. So whatever time has passed in between what he needs to do, he's already back from that, and we're going right back into the Pyke thing. And so on top of that, since Boba didn't need to use that money on Din to help him out, he's got some extra money to maybe hire some more muscle. This is the big reach, like maybe the Knights of Ren, because they have been around for far long before the events of the sequel trilogy, and their leader was not Kylo Ren, of course. It was like a guy named Ren, who was pretty badass. But those would be pretty cool help, but I don't think that's gonna happen. I will take Cad Bane and Bosk showing up, because I've always wanted it, but I'll take that, But this episode also, it feels more like a book or a Mandalorian prediction than a Book of Boba Fett thing. But we see that, you're talking about the training scene with the armor, and she handles them pretty easily. Like, she's like, whoop up, hitting them like, Miyagi versus Daniel style, like just kind of fading off the stuff and hitting them. So I kind of wonder if in season 3, this whole Mandalorian theme that's going to be playing out through that season, if things are going to come to a head with those two. Like, I don't think we've seen the last of the armor and Paz Vizsla in general. Like, those two, those are not two characters you just say, hey, okay, we're done with them. So I think maybe we'll actually see Din versus the armor in an actual combat situation where Din has to best her, but instead of killing them, of course, he's going to be like, your ways are old, because the way they subscribe to the old Mandalorian ways of not taking off your helmet and stuff like that. He goes, it doesn't have to be this way. And so maybe that's when we'll actually get to see the armor take her helmet off and all that for the first time. That would be a cool thing to see, hopefully in season 3 of Mandalorian. But that's all I got. That's all I got for now.
That's
Dang.
awesome.
Okay.
I'm in. If that's part of the script for season 3, I'm in. But basically, kind of, we differ in our predictions because I think this whole episode was for the sheer purpose of what it did for me. It reminded me how much that I love The Mandalorian and how much I'm dying for the next season to come out. I think this entire episode was a catch up, but also a tease for the new season of The Mandalorian, so that it got everybody excited and everybody going right into it knows what's kind of gonna happen. Mando is having trouble wielding the Darksaber, and he has now gotten a piece of armor made for Grogu because he does not want to never see him again. So he's already going to go, against the Jedi Order by going and going to see him and giving him special Beskar armor, basically. I think that maybe this means that we're not going to get that big confrontation with the Pykes until a later season of the Book of Boba Fett. Because if we're going to do everything in chronological order, I don't know if they want to spill the beans at what's going to happen next with Mando going to try to see Grogu. So, because there's really only 2 outcomes. Like, he goes and sees him and Grogu comes with him, or he goes and tries to see him and doesn't get to see him. So, like, I don't think they want to have Mando show up in the next episode, because then they have to paint him in a box. Either A, he's upset because he didn't get to see Grogu and he doesn't have him with him, or B, he has him with him because he just took him, type of thing. So I don't think they want to paint him in the box for the next season, because I think that would be too big of a thing. So I don't think we're going to see Mando again for the rest of this season of Book of Boba. And I also think maybe, just maybe, if we really want to have Mando in that final battle with the Pikes, like that big giant thing, maybe we don't get that this season. Maybe we end on a cliffhanger, like right before that happens, type of thing.
So then what are we building to then?
I think we're building towards that. But what if we're building towards that and then we don't get it? Like, we just get a cliffhanger.
They're going to piss a lot of people off.
I understand that. That's what I'm worried about. But I'm just saying, they've painted, by the end of of this episode, they've painted themselves into a weird box with Mando, because we know where he's trying to go right now. So, like, I don't think they want to show their hand at what happens after that. So I really don't think we're going to see him again. I think that was it. And so I don't know what's going to happen, but my prediction is maybe we don't get at least we don't get the entire Pyke conflict coming to a head. Maybe we get it coming to a head and they're in mid-battle, and then we get a see you again in season 2 type of thing. I don't know, but that's just my prediction. That made me worried, because I don't think they want to show their hand at what happens next with Mando. I think that was just a tease for what's going to happen for the next season.
Yeah.
That's all I got. That's what I think, though. I want to be proven wrong, because I want the season of Book of Boba Fett to end with that conflict having a resolve, type of thing. Like a massive battle. I want Boba Fett riding into battle. You know I want this on his Rancor. I want that. I want him running into battle with that. I want Mando there wielding the Darksaber into battle. But I don't know if we're going to get it. And that's my prediction. Anyway, that's what we think. Let us know in the comments below. What did you think of this episode? What did you think of the Book of Mando? And are you hoping to see Mando in the final couple of episodes of this season, or do you think this is the last we've seen of him until The Mandalorian season 3? And as always, don't forget, like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to hear about all of our video releases. Bye, everybody!